Councilmember Davis. Here. Councilmember Keel.
Here.
Councilmember Kerr.
Here.
Councilmember Parmet.
Here.
Councilmember Sullivan. Councilmember Vista. Mayor Riley.
Present.
There are 6 members present.
And I'd like the record to reflect that Councilmember Sullivan is ill this evening, called me this afternoon, was not able to make the meeting, and his absence is excused. First item is the approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda? Yes?
I don't know what your one says, but mine had the wrong date on it. Yeah.
The date should be the, if you could make the change, Madam Clerk, the date should be the 26th. You're trying to make it 27th. All right. So again, with that exception, Councilmember Davis.
Motion to approve the agenda and take this meeting.
Motion's been made. Is there a second? Councilmember Parmet. Second. Made and seconded. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Motion passed by a vote of 6-0. The first item we have is a proclamation. I'd like to introduce the proclamation of Kevin Linehan. Was the leader of the Keystone Election Commission. He volunteered for that task. He had some prior experience. He and the Election Commission did a remarkable job in pulling off 3 elections with no experience. There are very few town clerks who have had 3 elections in 1 year. It was a phenomenal success on their part. And the town council would like to recognize Kevin Linehan's service to the community and the town with the proclamation. And with that, Madam Clerk, would you please read the proclamation?
Whereas the citizens of the town of Keystone, Colorado have been blessed with the remarkable leadership and dedication of Kevin Linehan, and whereas Kevin Linehan has demonstrated unwavering commitment and exemplary service in successfully organizing and overseeing 3 distinct elections for the town of Keystone, Colorado, and whereas Kevin Linehan's tireless efforts, steadfast integrity, and exceptional organizational skills have ensured the smooth execution of each electoral process, thereby upholding the principles of democracy and civic engagement. And whereas through his leadership, Kevin Linehan has fostered an atmosphere of transparency, fairness, and inclusivity, allowing the voices of the community to be heard and respected. And whereas Kevin Linehan's passion for public service and his selfless dedication to the betterment of Keystone, Colorado, serve as a shining example for all residents to follow. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the mayor and the town council of Keystone, Colorado do hereby honor and recognize Kevin Linehan for his outstanding service and invaluable contributions to the town of Keystone and our community. Further, we hereby commend Kevin Linehan for his exemplary leadership, commendable professionalism, and unwavering commitment to democratic ideals.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is communications to council. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the council on any item that is not on the agenda for this evening. And we would ask you to please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Is there anyone who would like to address the council? And please state your name and the neighborhood that you live in.
Does microphone work here? Is that
Yes.
helpful, or just speak out?
Am I right, Gary?
I'm not sure it's hot, but I don't think you're gonna need it tonight.
Okay, that's fine. I can pick it up if for recording purposes or not. My name's Dan Johnson. I live over on Soda Ridge Road. I'm the trauma director, one of the physicians over at Keystone Urgent Care. I don't know if you guys have heard or not, but the contract for us to operate there is up for renewal. this season. I just wanted to come to address the council and just share some thoughts as a physician that has worked there for the past 4 seasons. I've lived in Keystone for the past 4 years as well. In the past 2 years, I was asked to step up to the trauma director position. We are a level 5 trauma center. State requires that we have a director to oversee that. I also work with ski patrol in that fashion as well. In these past 2 years, it's been interesting seeing how this facility is operated. I also feel the common spirit in this time has increased their commitment to Keystone, keeping this facility open 365 days a year, whereas previously in the past, we were closed in the summer. Stepping into this position as well, in the past 2 years, we have worked a little bit better together as a group of physicians for Breckenridge Copper and the hospital itself, as well as Dr. Doucette is the director for A Basin. That as a community and as a county, we have worked together to coordinate our trauma care specifically designed for our ski hills and the unique environment that we work in, but also trying to bring all of these services together to work together for the county. I think another interesting aspect is yes, this is all part of like the St. Anthony and the Common Spirit system. We have what we call a vertical trauma system, where from where we see someone here, whether they go to the hospital or they go down to Lakewood, those are all physicians in our same group. And that allows us to provide a better quality control and peer review in that system. So if someone ends up with a severe injury down in Lakewood, I hear directly back from those physicians for things to make sure that we can provide better care to our on-mountain trauma care. I guess try to keep it brief and short, but I've been honored to be part of this system. I've been very interested in seeing how we work together to provide the care that Summit County needs. And I'd like to try to keep that here in Keystone as best we can. I guess I feel strongly that I think in town itself, I know that we may not have a lot of say, either myself as a physician or the town itself in this process. But I do think that Keystone as a town itself should have a say in what medical care we feel is appropriate for our residents. So just want to thank you for your time and consideration and yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from anybody? Any comments from anyone online?
No.
No? I would like to make
One comment, thank you for the proclamation, but no questions.
all right. I'm glad that Kevin was able to attend remotely. One comment and just a update for you, Dr. Johnson, and those who also attended tonight. I did talk to the Mountain GM this morning on this subject, and he assured me of several things. One, they will be making the decision sometime in the month of May. The contract will begin, the new contract will begin in August. They have not made a decision yet. And it's going to be the best value evaluation. And he made it clear at the introductory meeting of the competitors, Avail Health and Common Spirit, that the service that Common Spirit currently provided to the town of providing 365 coverage for urgent care, he thought would be becoming increasingly important, particularly with the incorporation of Keystone. So, and as part of the best value evaluation, not only will it include the other services that you alluded to tonight, such as the interaction with the ski patrol, training for ski patrol members, and that sort of thing. It will also include consideration of any offer that one of the two medical providers have regarding 365 coverage in Keystone. That will be one of the considerations. But at least it's been brought to their attention.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight. Councilman Barnett.
Mr. Mayor, I was informed that someone else did want to speak and they're currently en route. Would you just allow them to speak later if we move on to other business?
Yeah, that's all.
I'm going to speak on the same topic if you want me to
go now?
Well, you almost lost your time. We were just about to go to the
Oh,
next
okay,
one.
I didn't realize. So my name is Katie Stevenson. I live in West Hills, but I'm also here to talk about Keystone Medical Center. I have worked there since 2018. I've lived in Keystone since 2019. And the same topic was brought to my attention. And I just wanted to express a couple concerns I have with the thought of a new system taking over the clinic. And that is primarily that there's a good system now, which allows for a higher level of care. It's very common for our patients to need to be transferred to a higher level of care, whether that be our hospital in Frisco or be Denver. But right now our option is only 10 miles away. So I would just really hate for another health system to come in and try to bring people, about 38 miles away and also out of the way further away from Denver. We already have a problem with our ambulances. There's lots of delays in care because we don't have enough staff on those ambulances and physically don't have enough ambulances. So if we're trying to transfer patients further away, that's going to be another concern, which could transfer over to any of us calling 911 and needing help. So I just know that if I was in need of medical care, I wouldn't want there to be any delays. It's sad that in this country, medical care is looked at as a competition, such as in this case, when really it should just be what's best for the patient. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other comments anyone would like to make?
Hi there, sorry I walked in late. My name is Mark Lisa. I'm an emergency physician. I've been in the county for 18 years. I work at Summit Hospital and our group also staffed at the ski area clinics, Keystone, Mountain, and Breckenridge. And these entities all are part of a system that we worked for years to build, and I think we have a really outstanding quality of care for our patients, Summit County residents and guests alike, for trauma, injuries, urgent care, et cetera. We have the resources of the Level 1 Trauma Center in St. Anthony down in Lakewood. We have Flight to Life. We have the 3 ski area clinics, the ski patrol, the EMS agencies in the county. And over all the years I've been up here, I'm very proud and honored to work up here, but I think it's a really high quality healthcare system. And we have worked with the community for years and built, I think, an outstanding system for a county that's got unique needs and obviously somewhat of a rural environment, but also you see a lot of acuity, a lot of trauma, and as others have mentioned, I think what we offer, and I say not me, we are physicians that staff the clinics, but the Common Spirit formerly Centura system that operates the clinic, I think has a really good quality leadership in terms of the managers of the clinics. They all work together, Keystone Copper Breck, for continuity of care, for high quality standards. We offer medical direction and supervision for the ski patrols of the resort. And in the past few years, we've built a team where we try to build consistency and high quality with medical protocols and guidelines for our patrols and our EMS agencies. So again, to second what others have said, I think we have a really good quality care. We keep the clinic at Keystone open year round, which did not used to be the case, but we're obviously very busy in the winter, but in the summer it's less busy. It's probably not super profitable for the healthcare organization, but they do it for the community and for the healthcare. I think there's room to build even a better facility at this location, just with continuing to be open. And we also staff our facilities with board certified emergency physicians at all our facilities at all times. That is not the case at the current Dillon Health Center. Their capabilities in terms of care, imaging, lab, et cetera, do not rise to the quality of what we are able to do at the hospital. And in fact, we often get patient transfer from the Dillon Center, because we are able to, provide services that are not available. So again, I think we're here for the community. I've been here a long time. It means a lot to me. And, I feel like we can, do the best job and offer the best services for both our locals and our visitors. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comment?
Can I ask you a question about your conversation with the general manager? And my question is, in their consideration, are they considering patient care?
We didn't discuss that.
Okay, did you put that on your agenda for your next conversation?
Councilmember Piston.
Have they, the resort, are they taking into consideration the link and service to the community and beyond the resort service? Now that we're incorporated, is that one of their considerations?
He indicated that as part of the best value consideration, that the fact that a service would provide, either competitor could provide, 367 support to the community, would be considered a positive evaluation. That wouldn't necessarily be a decision point, that'd be considered in the best value point.
But in terms of continuity of care between the hospital, the existing hospital, and other services to the community and how that ties into their choice, is that something
I don't
where
believe
it sounds like we can continue to have an open dialogue with them in regards
Oh,
to
we can have
the race?
We can have an open dialogue with you. I started that dialogue before.
Do we need to pass a resolution or show our intention of continuing to address this, considering it really does demonstrate risk areas and the town's ability to work together and set a precedent for moving forward?
We have two problems. One, the contractors for mountain support and services. It exists in an area that's not part of the town.
Yet in good faith, it would seem.
Understand? We can, I don't know if it would be appropriate for this council to take a formal position on a private competitive acquisition that's ongoing. Other council members could disagree, and you could choose to do that. Councilmember
I
Cook.
absolutely agree. I don't think it's the town's business to try to suggest that the resort should go one way or the other on their decision. But alternatively, I would ask whether there is a way to more formally vocalize what we consider best value for their consideration. So what I'm suggesting is sort of like a sense of the town leadership. And we could say, as you make your decision, we'd like you to consider these points. I asked the attorney to see if that's even reasonable.
Yeah, I think that would be reasonable. It would also be reasonable. I would be hesitant to, although I really appreciate Common Spirit's support for this community and the fact that they exist in this community. I would hesitate to say we urge you to select Common Spirit.
Oh, absolutely.
But I would absolutely agree that it's appropriate for this council to express a desire to continue for this community 365 emergency, not urgent care coverage for this community.
Goes beyond that, I would argue that we could consider other points, like continuity of care, consider going 40 miles over the mountain to a larger hospital. I mean,
We have no idea what the other offers are.
Again, I don't think we should try to.
So you're trying to split.
So I'm sway the decision, just make a statement of our intent, our priority was there to them to consider our
Undue care and distance, proximity, ability of our insurance to be able to connect those dots instead of then all of a sudden switching providers and having another bill to consider in the chain of the same incident. I mean, ambulance is a big consideration because a lot of these positions, it's considered an out-of-network service anyway. We don't need to compound the issues with medical care in Summit County. I'm not saying, I'm not advocating for one or the other, but just listing other considerations beyond 365 days a year that as a resident or an employee, we've heard are important to our community.
I could, if someone could draft something in that area, it's something I think we should consider. If that's,
I'd be willing to do so and work with Jennifer. Perhaps we could discuss this at the next work session because it's pretty sensitive. I wouldn't want to just look at one piece of paper and say yay or nay.
yeah, I'm just concerned that we express what we desire from a needs for the community versus looking at what we perceive to be offers from either side of the competition and trying to skew the competition.
Totally understand the early offers, but I think there's definite, very clear considerations
Yeah.
of the community for what we need for medical care.
Yeah, but again, there's two pieces, medical care here. One piece is the mountain piece, which is more Vail Resorts purview than ours. And then the second piece, so, is the community piece.
And being able to navigate how those two things are going to work together moving forward, not just on this issue, but other relevant issues.
So would someone like to take the lead and draft something?
Still. Yeah.
All right.
I'm willing to come. Yeah, let's do that and then we'll turn it on you. And it's one.
All right. And again, thank you all for coming. By the way, I did point out to Chris Sorensen today that the Summit Daily does review our council meetings. And it wouldn't surprise me to have this appear in future edition of the Summit Daily. So, thanks. All right, is there any other discussion on that topic? I think we just violated it.
Oh, you threw in on that topic. Is this a good time to ask a question? Or addressing, council,
If you,
or is it on that topic?
as long as it's not on a topic that we're discussing tonight, you may come forward and address council.
Oh, I haven't seen the agenda, so.
What's your topic?
What's your topic?
Well, when's the infrastructure initiations or forward discussion going to start?
Come forward and address council.
Oh, Larry Truss didn't really large. So one of my deputies, a lot of people is, our roads in the county are pretty pathetic. You know, we get tons of money, people come up here, people are sliding off roads, there's not enough snow plows, and we're like, you know, the premier top area in Colorado. So I just wondering, plus we got, well, just right on down Highway 6, you got the light at Razors, a disaster, waiting for somebody. Every time you go out there, I'm working on this side, so every time you go out of there, when there's a lot of people, it's been spring break. You got the people, you got the cars, who's gonna go, who's gonna get run over. And you get all the people at the, I'm not sure what parking lot it is, right here, the Vale. All those guys are walking along the road. I see them every weekend, crossing the road. There needs to be another light at the fire station, direct all those people maybe they all should pay for it to, to the ski area. But things like that, I'm just curious when the meeting or discussion, I don't know how you guys set up a discussion topic, initiations, I have no idea. Thought I'd throw it out there, get some movement on that.
Thank you. The town manager would like to address that, or
Yeah, I guess the good news now is you're actually talking to somebody that can do something about it, other than what it was before February 8th. There's no specific schedule yet. And I hate to make excuses, but there's a lot of things going on right now to get the town up and running.
Yeah.
All kinds of fundamentals. But I know from talking to the council enough that the road conditions, the safety concerns are a high priority. So although I don't have a schedule for you that I can provide you tonight, I guess I could safely say that in the not too distant future, we'll be delving into those matters that you outlined.
So it'll be like on the agenda for a meeting or? Okay.
Yeah, I think so. That kind of thing would be, we're gonna get into some broader discussion about that. It would probably list it on an agenda. So we'll check the website, and you'll see what those agendas contain. And you're free to call anytime you're at town hall and ask those questions as well.
What to Hirsch? To Hirsch? The town or what? Call?
It's called the 3500 number.
What's that?
He's asking who to call. Yeah, you can call me Lindsay Hirsch.
Okay.
Yes.
450-3500.
Okay. All right.
Thanks for your comment, Judith.
Valerie,
And we should maybe also point out that we just started designating town council members to attend meetings that are relevant to that, CDOT meetings and other traffic related meetings with all of the powers that be. So we are very interested in addressing that issue. It was one of the top priorities of incorporation, and we're just trying to come up to speed and figure out what our opportunities are for mitigation and which organizations we're going to be working with, because we finally got a seat at the table.
Right.
and unfortunately, it's not gonna be fast. We're gonna need to generate funding to be able to support changes to Highway 6. Largely, that's gonna fall either on grants or a combination of grants and town funding. So we're looking to getting really substantive changes, underpasses, sidewalks along all of 6 things that were high priority is going to be, it's gonna be a while. Right now, I think the number we looked at today is we have $400,000 in the bank, and that's in advance. So we'll be generating cash in the next year, and hopefully be able to eventually, probably next year, start putting some funding in.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to get expectations up that we were going to see major changes on US 6 this year. I don't think that's going to happen.
When it comes to minor things, we can try and do some things right away. So we're already tracking down it. I know Lindsay has been on CDOT's case about the monster ice swimming pool, pothole at Razor Drive, trying to get that fixed. So there's little things that we can do quickly while we work on the big picture stuff that just are primarily just distressing.
And also, if you have issues like with US 6, for instance, the town has no maintenance responsibility on US 6. But we do have points of contact with CDOT. And when the town staff gets notification that there is a problem on 6 or a particular pothole, they do make CDOT aware of that and request maintenance. That's true.
Who does that?
Right now.
I got them out there, I'm in contact in the county, and I contacted you, and then the next Saturday, the guy was out there too, shoveling asphalt, but it wasn't He didn't get it all. They kind of did a half-assed job.
I just want to point out right now, the town staff today consists of the town manager, the interim town manager, Lindsay Hirsch, and Maddie Sealy are clerk. We're in the process of hiring,
Okay.
but we're still growing.
All right.
So I just ask for some patience.
Well, I'm sure the patient, I have no idea where to start, right?
Where to start? Right there with the town manager.
Okay.
So, and I appreciate your comments, very valid comments. Probably our highest priority. Any other comments? And I've just violated their rules against having an agenda. All right, with that, communication to council closed. The next item on the agenda is a consent agenda. And it includes the following items. The first reading of the following ordinances. Ordinance 2024-03, an ordinance of the town council of the town of Keystone, Colorado, regulating the licensing and distribution and sale of alcoholic beverages. It includes ordinance 2024-04, an ordinance of the town council of the town of Keystone, Colorado, regulating the licensing and distribution of the sale of tobacco. Ordinance 2024-05, an ordinance of the town council of the town of Keystone, Colorado, adopting by reference the Summit County Land Use Development Code published by Summit County, Colorado, as such existed on May 1, 2024, subject to requirements, revisions, and amendments as provided by this ordinance and declaring an emergency. In addition, it includes the meeting minutes of the March 12th, 2024 regular meeting. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Point of order.
Yes.
I do not wish to remove any of these from the consent agenda. If we can have a discussion during the work session next time about the ordinance for tobacco products. Is
I think that was agreed to earlier in the work session.
I would like to remove something.
Is it the same one?
No.
Okay,
What?
so, well, if we could just address 24-04, and that be an agenda item for next time's work session before the vote.
We should move.
Well, there will be a complete discussion during the period of the vote. In-depth discussion. You can raise any questions you want at that point. Or if you'd like to have it removed, we can remove it, or
I just want an opportunity to have certain questions answered.
that's part of the public hearing portion.
They're both public meetings, right?
Did you want to remove something?
I'd like to propose to remove ordinance 2024-03. I just think it warrants a deeper conversation with this council, really looking into what we are trying to say with that. I think it's a health and safety issue, and I think we should take it seriously and dive into it. I'm not comfortable approving it with the consent agenda without a thorough conversation of what liquor licensing is going to look like. So I would like to remove it from the consent agenda and have a full conversation as a council about it.
You need to make a motion.
Motion to remove, ordinance 2024-03.
Is there a second?
One second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? One point I would like to make for consideration is that next week, we have in our next council meeting, we will have a public hearing, and there will be a complete opportunity to discuss all items in detail. And if the council members would like, as with the, as we discussed earlier, we can add those items into a work session prior to that as well. But by removing it from the consent agenda, we can do that, but then we will address it under a later item on the agenda for this meeting. To remove it, the consent agenda causes us to address it again in this meeting. Full.
And you're saying leaving it.
Leaving it on the consent agenda means that we could then discuss it at the, either at a work session, in the work session next week, or in addition, we could discuss it at the, in depth during the, second reading.
And we can make changes at the second.
Absolutely, that's the purpose of it, that second meeting.
It kind of depends on the changes. I mean,
Yeah.
wholesale changes are very difficult to make
Yeah.
in a meeting and to get it right. So minor amendment is okay, and we can do whatever you
Right.
want. It's just big changes in a meeting, it might not come out the way that you want it to.
Okay. I just think that we should have, a really in-depth conversation about it, whether that's in today's meeting or a future meeting. I just don't want to see it pass as it currently stands, just with no conversation. I think it's something that impacts a lot of people in this community, impacts businesses, tourism, residents alike, and I think it warrants a conversation, before just passing it through. So however that needs to look.
Councilman Fiske.
I would just speak in support of that sentiment. It's hard because I do have concern regarding the speed at which we need to adopt things, and grandfathering ordinances that might not have been our own. But with that, I do acknowledge that the time and resources are the essence. We're trying to meet certain deadlines for assuming responsibility for liquor license to the planning and zoning. But we do have a responsibility to diligently consider the ordinances in relation to our own specific community. And my mind was somewhat put at ease earlier when we discussed it during the work session in regards to planning and zoning and being able to make amendments that, at a later point, that do suit the needs of our community. But I want to acknowledge Councilman Phillips' concern.
Is there any other comment? In that case, I will ask for a vote. All those in favor of removing it from the consent agenda, please raise your hand. That's 2. All those opposed? That's 4. I'd like the record to reflect the vote was 2 to 4 against removing the item from the consent agenda with Councilmember Davis, Councilmember Fiske, Mayor Riley, and Councilmember Parment opposed. Again, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Councilmember Davis,
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
is there a second? Councilmember Fiske,
I second the motion to approve the consent agenda.
been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? The vote was 5 in favor, 1 opposed, with Councilmember Keel opposed. The next item on the agenda is continued business, the consideration of ordinances for second reading of the ordinance. And at this point, I would like to, I believe I opened the public meeting.
Yes.
I'd like to open a public meeting on this item. And the process that we'll be going through is to read the title of the agenda, and then we will be declaring the meeting open, and we'll be announcing, as I'm doing now, the procedures that we're going to be going through. The audience, the participants will have an opportunity to, the item will be discussed with the council members. The participants in the audience will have an opportunity to speak on the ordinance. And then any scheduled speakers will also be speaking on the ordinance. And then we will, in essence, be going to a vote on the ordinance. Did I get that roughly correctly? This is our first public hearing that we've had, so please bear with me as we go through this. So with that, would the clerk please read the title?
Ordinance 2024-0-01, an ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Keystone, Colorado, prescribing the membership, powers, and duties and appointment procedure for the Town of Keystone Planning and Zoning Commission.
And I declare the public hearing is now open. We've already gone through at the top level the procedures we're going to be following. Now we'll have an opportunity to present comments on the ordinance. The first set of comments will come from the town staff, and then we will then follow with any scheduled speakers that we have. And I don't believe we have any on the first agenda item. And then we will invite the public to provide up to 3 minutes of comments on the item. So with that, Mr. Town Manager.
Yeah, and I'm gonna ask our attorney to summarize the bill, the ordinance.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, Jennifer Madsen, town attorney. Before you tonight is an ordinance to establish essentially the Planning and Zoning Commission for the town of Keystone. As you all know, in section 9.3 of the town of Keystone Home Rule Charter, there was created a Planning and Zoning Commission to assist town council in planning the development of the town. Section 9 of the charter provides that town council shall further clarify the powers and duties of the planning commissions, the qualification of members, and appointment procedure. I'll briefly go over the ordinance. The membership in the ordinance of the Planning and Zoning Commission is made up of 7 members. The term of that membership is 3 years, and those first terms are staggered. The qualifications of members is that the council members, the mayor, or full-time employees shall not serve on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and at least a majority of the membership of the Planning and Zoning Commission shall consist of primary residents. The powers and duties are that the Planning and Zoning Commission shall review, adopt, and amend comprehensive plans, sub-area plans, and make recommendations related to the drafting and development of the Land Development Code. Also, the Planning and Zoning Commission will be responsible for reviewing and making decisions as required by your town land use and development code. And that is really a high level overview. I can answer any questions if anybody has any.
Does anyone have any questions, council member? Sure.
Ms. Madsen, there's a part in there, section 2C, that refers to can't find it. Moving on to my next point. There are 2 determinations that are referred to in here, but I'm not sure what our process for developing them is going to be. One is the process for appointments that's referenced in 2E. The terms shall be determined in a matter prescribed by the town council. Is that yet to be done?
No, not specifically, but maybe your community development director, Lindsay Hirsch, can speak to that.
Great question. For the record, Lindsay Hirsch. We are going, I believe there's later on your agenda time to do that, and I'll walk you through some options regarding the selection process.
Okay. And the second one is, oh, that's very similar. Found it, sorry. Section 2C1, part of the responsibilities of the Planning and Zoning Commission will be to review a decision as required by the Land Use Development Code of Summit County. Do we want it to say Summit County since it's referred, or do we want it to say Town of Keystone as it does later on?
This should be clarified. So this should be as required by, the Town of Keystone. I think your amendment should specify that, section 2C1, if everybody agrees, but amendment here to 2C1 to clarify that it's the, code that's adopted by reference, Town of Keystone code adopting Summit County code by reference.
Okay, you'll help me through that.
Yes.
Okay.
Do we need to have a motion for amendment now?
No, it doesn't need to be now. You can make your motion, so when you approve the ordinance, you can approve the ordinance with an amendment to section 2C1 to clarify that the review and decisions are related to the Town of Keystone ordinance adopting the Summit County code by reference. And it doesn't have to be that spelled out like that, but just that it's a clarification in that section of this particular ordinance.
For question, we discussed this last week, and I thought the discussion went along the lines that we have not yet approved that land development code, adopting that, therefore it was only appropriate to refer to the Summit County of current land development code, and then we would have to, and that land development would come back and change it here.
It's just so close in time, and I know we talked about it, and I think I provided different suggestions. So there are two ways that we can go about this. You can approve this tonight the way that it is, and then in ordinance, the ordinance adopting the Summit County code by reference, I can include as a section number, it would be amending this language here.
Councilman Fister.
Let me know if this is the appropriate time for this, but I'd like to propose a second amendment under qualifications to define resident as someone who has lived in Keystone for 1 year and is a registered voter in Summit County for 1 year. I think we need to insist that there's a clear definition of primary resident, especially given that we are one of only a few towns that allows non-residents on the Planning and Zoning Commission. The charter requires the majority of the 7 members be residents, and I acknowledge that the charter's intention of including multiple stakeholders in the process was accommodated by that, but I feel like we need to subscribe to the higher standard of resident established by the town council candidate requirement and be very specific.
Councilmember. Yes.
Second.
I'm not sure what I'm dealing with.
You have to talk about the amendment.
Well, just a second.
Well, there wasn't a motion.
She made it, I don't know.
Made well, wasn't really a motion to amend. So as far as the rules of procedure, you can either make a motion to approve it with an amendment that is such and such. Or when somebody makes a motion to approve, then you request a friendly amendment or an amendment to that motion. And we are not yet at the time of a motion to approve the ordinance because you haven't yet had public. Yeah.
So I'm sorry, so how would you like me to proceed with this? What would you recommend? Wait for a few minutes? Yes.
Is there any other discussion that the council would like to have on this particular ordinance? All right,
Mr. Mayor,
yes,
is this an appropriate time to comment on additional, recruiting or a discussion about extending the application period for that? Or is that a different time?
not appropriate at this time. We're considering the amendment.
Thank you.
I mean, we're considering the ordinance. The time to do that would be when we have the discussion later on the selection.
Very good.
Is there any other discussion from the council members? All right, the next item is, we will open up the, meeting for a, sorry, I'm referring back to the notes. Did the town manager have any other items to discuss on
No, but I think what you're looking for right now, you want to open the public hearing?
the? Yeah, no, I want to allow the public to comment, yeah.
Okay.
Is there anyone in the public who'd like to comment on this? With that, we have no public comment in this room. Is there anyone online wishing to comment? No. And no one online wishing to comment as well? And did any of the, Councilmember Davis?
I would like to move that we approve this ordinance. Oh, shoot, I'm on the wrong page. I would like to make a motion to approve ordinance of 24-0-01, referring to the, membership powers and duties of the planning and zoning commission so that we can further discussion.
So you just made a motion to approve this as is? Is that understanding correctly?
It can be amended, this, according to, you can defer these.
You can do it two ways. You can include your amendment in your motion. Okay, that's fine.
So then she can make the
Yeah.
amendment later
Yeah.
as a forward clarification.
But without it on.
Without it, we can't have.
Right, you need a second.
Without it on the floor, we can't discuss it.
Right. We moved and seconded. All those in favor, please raise your
Oh,
hand.
no, discussion.
Discussion on the,
So I need to make a motion to make the amendment
Yeah.
to,
oh, that's where you make the
Yeah.
discussion. All right.
now I would like to propose a motion to amend qualification section to define resident as someone who has lived in Keystone for 1 year and has been in the city of Berlin to make money from.
All right. Is there a second to the amendment? Is it second? So it is, is there any discussion? One point I would like to make, and I'm ambivalent to the amendment because I think it's already covered by statute. By statute, your primary residence for a year, which by definition means that you have lived here for a year. Registered voter in Colorado means that your primary residence, by definition of primary residence, that means you live, you declare this as your place to live. Yes,
Registered voter in Colorado, does that necessarily extend being a registered voter in Summit County and or being?
no, registered voter in Summit County. If you're a registered voter in Summit County,
That qualifies you as being a resident.
that means you're a resident.
Okay, so it's not ambiguous, I've been a registered voter for a year in Colorado.
No,
Or
you have to be, to qualify as a resident on the commission, you have to you have to have lived in Summit County for a year. If you are a registered voter in Summit County, you have to live in Keystone for a year, excuse me. If you're a registered voter in Keystone, by definition, that means that that's your primary residence, and that your primary residence has been here for a year. Am I correct?
So those are the qualifications to run for office, not to be a primary resident. But you can be a primary resident. You don't have to live here for a year to be a primary resident under the municipal election code. And the primary resident is defined in, so this is an area where in the charter, you define primary residence, and the charter has the requirements for the Planning and Zoning Commission that at least a majority must be a primary resident. And the charter already defines what a primary resident is.
Do you mind reading that?
Well, a primary residence shall have the same meaning as set forth in CRS section 3110-201 subsection 3. And so then we have to go to state statute to look at what it says a primary residence is. And when you go to state statute, a primary residence is, it's a residence of a person in the principal or primary home or place of abode of a person. Principal or primary home or place of abode is that home or place in which the habitation is fixed, and to which a person, whenever he is absent, has a present intention of returning after a departure or absence therefrom, regardless of the duration of absence. And then there are several factors that a long list of factors that are also considered in determining primary residence, but it is not tied to a specific time frame.
But the requirement was to be a primary resident and to be for a year. So that's where the time frame kind of came in. The charter put the requirement, I believe, for the year, did it not?
No.
All right, that's been corrected.
And that was my concern, that we bring it to the standard that we set the town council candidate standard at the very least, at the very minimum, to protect the sanctity of the residents who will be appointed to the planning and zoning, knowing that other potential members may not be residents.
Any other discussion, Councilman Keel?
Yeah, I would agree. I think we need to be specific about it. Whether primary resident is, defined somewhere else. I think this is the opportunity for us to be specific, given that we are already going sort of above and beyond what is normally done for planning and zoning commissions. I think it's our responsibility to the community to make sure that we're being very specific about the majority. So whether it's defined or not, I think is kind of irrelevant. I think we should define it here. And I think it does need to be set.
Any other discussion? No other further discussion, call the question. All those in favor?
Clarify, we're voting on the amendment before we vote on the main motion, or we're voting on the motion. Right, you're voting on the amendment.
We're voting on the amendment.
All right. Just because we haven't done this.
I know that.
So for clarification, what change does this amendment make? Oh, my
Could the clerk capture that?
So I captured that in section 2B after 2B2. I reflected that as primary resident is a resident of Keystone who has been a registered voter in the town of Keystone for 1 year. But I could change that based off of whether or not that reflects the motion.
My question though, Madison, is how is that, what she read different than what you would think the ordinance now says?
The ordinance has no requirement that somebody live in Keystone for a given, duration.
Okay.
They just, they would need to meet the test of being a primary residence. And it's a, subjective test without any objective factors. And you need to have a place here. But your place could have been established maybe a week ago, but you have an intent to come back to Keystone. If you leave, you have.
And the my proposal was that they lived in Keystone for 1 year and had established themselves as a voter. I don't know if that's redundant. Do you have another suggestion, but
Is there a requirement that they have been a voter for a year? Or is it primary requirement that they've been a resident for a year?
how do you qualify resident? Because there are some people, second homeowners, who have owned properties for 10 years, and I would argue that they are not residents.
But if, well, they have to be a primary resident.
So how would we qualify now, other than the subjective language in the state code, which is what
I would hate to preclude someone who has been a resident here for 10 years and doesn't vote.
Well, if they're not voting, why do they want to be a part of our municipal and democratic process? That would be my argument. I think that is the least, the minimum that we can institute is being a registered voter for a year, which is similar to, I think we need to have standard.
Well, I agree with the 1 year requirement. It's just a matter of whether you open it up to 1 year or
How's that measurable with the I just think it needs to be measurable.
How would we prove that someone has been here for a year?
Is it not residential versus just on the property?
how do they handle this in other jurisdictions? Well,
Well, they don't allow non-residents.
they're about to,
They wouldn't, this person in your example, Mr. Mayor, wouldn't be excluded. They would just be limited to, the direction that at least the majority be under the requirement that, Councilmember Vista is proposing. So this wouldn't remove people from consideration. It would just put them in the smaller block of consideration, I think.
any other discussion you want to have? Then again, I'll call the question on this. All those in favor of the amendment?
I think it would be helpful for everybody to just know exactly what the motion is and what you're voting on.
Yeah, what is it?
So it's to amend the motion to approve.
Amend the motion to approve qualifications listed in ordinance 24-0-01 to define a permanent resident as someone who's lived in Keystone, primary resident, as someone who has lived in Keystone for 1 year and has been a registered voter in Summit County, aka Keystone for 1 year.
Or Keystone for you?
Yeah, I think Keystone for a year.
A year ago, Keystone wasn't a town, so what you're saying is they registered to vote at least a year ago as in a Keystone, address. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, because that's so true.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
In fact, a year ago, in fact, 1 year ago, we had the list of all voters who were in Keystone, and we used that for the first elections.
I have an administrative question of whether you can even verify this information.
Very good.
We
The voter
received
registration list.
voter registration list, and the election commission had that information.
So we're using voter registration as proof of primary residence,
Yes.
in essence.
Yes.
So we don't need anything other than He's done voter registration.
He doesn't want to say that. But anyway, any other comments? All right, I'll open it up.
Thank you very much. For the record, Ms. Hirsch, we're from the other side, besides not the voter part, but from the owner, portion, it could get a little confusing with regards to how deeds are written and LLCs and things like that. I mean, it can be done, but it's not always as blatant as you would think.
How do you list a utility purpose? Do they put their LLC on a utility bill or is it an individual person?
Oh, it's a person registered with the utility. But if you go back to registered voter, that is verified.
What I can say is I will endeavor through this process to confirm what the intent is. The intent is clear. I will endeavor when I do go through the selection process to do my very best to verify what you're doing now.
It's not excluding candidates, it's just making sure we have 5 versus 2.
No, it's very well intended. It's just, verification could be a little tricky.
Close. 5 versus 2.
And I would just say it becomes a little bit clearer when we take homeownership out of the equation. You know, if we're not looking at
Which is
what's on deeds, then it really doesn't muddle the water as much. You know, when we're thinking of homeownership as part of a resident process, that's where it sort of gets like the whole LLC. But if we take homeownership off the table, because that's not a qualification to be a resident, then you're only looking at voter registration. I think it becomes clearer, the lines are less blurred at that point. Makes it easier, I think, to swallow. Understand.
All right. So does the clerk have a sense of what was said and can you repeat it?
Sorry.
Since we've gone around this about 4 times.
So I have this reflected as a motion to approve or a motion to amend the ordinance to define primary residence in this case as a resident of Keystone who has lived in Keystone for 1 year and who has been a registered voter in the town of Keystone for 1 year.
Is this gonna be 2 different votes? One vote?
Yes, this is for the amendment, then we'll vote on it. So, any further discussion on the amendment?
Can we not just simplify this, like, that was a lot?
Let's just finish the process.
That's, same question.
Let's finish the process. We have an amendment on the floor. All those in favor of the amendment, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Now that that's amended, now we're discussing the motion with the amendment. You approve the motion, correct? So is there any further discussion on that? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Oh, we need to do it. Sorry, we need to, the clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Keel,
Vote, voting.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a yes or no?
Yes.
Councilmember Craig,
Yes.
Councilmember Carmen,
Yes.
Councilmember Thisted,
Yes.
Councilmember Davis,
Yes.
Mayor Riley.
Yes.
There are 6 ayes.
Gosh, that was.
I'm gonna sit your well, I'll be able to do it.
Yes. Yeah, we had to do it once. Now we get to do it again. The next item on the agenda, if I can find my agenda. The next item on the agenda is a consideration of the next ordinance. Would the clerk please read the ordinance?
Ordinance 2024-0-02, an ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Keystone, Colorado, approving a cable television franchise agreement between the Town of Keystone, Colorado and Comcast of Colorado 11, Inc. grantee to provide cable television services with the town and make reasonable and lawful use of the town rights of way for such purposes.
All right, Mr. Town Manager, do you have any presentations or comments?
My presentation will come right from the town attorney one more time.
Good
Let me
evening.
also just add one thing. In our just recently reviewed bylaws, there's provision to allow presentation by an individual during these public hearings. And we do have one individual here this evening representing Comcast. So just want to point that out. Let's get the staff report and then we will go from there.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor, Councilmember Jennifer Madison, Town Attorney. I am actually going to turn this over to the presenter here, who is Andy Davis, for Comcast. And if Andy could go to the mic, for the podium here.
You're registered voter in Keystone?
Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Andy Davis, Director of Government Affairs for Comcast. And I'm just honored to be here tonight. I know this is new for all of you. It's actually a little bit new for us too, which is to have a cable franchise in a community that is being carved out of a community that we were serving previously. So new for you, new for us too. But what I wanted to do was to, I think it may be useful to just kind of walk you through a little bit of just an overview of Comcast. I'll do it pretty quickly, but sometimes I think, it's helpful just to have that context. I will say though, and we'll get into this in the last slide, the cable franchise only governs the provision of a wireline video product. So this is not, while Comcast provides, internet and mobile services and phone and et cetera, a cable franchise goes back to 80s era cable law, and this just governs the video product. So, but we can talk a little bit more about that. So just real quickly, if we go to the next slide, just from a big picture overview. So Comcast sort of, we kind of break down our businesses into two areas. One is connectivity and platforms. That's what we're talking about tonight when we think about a video franchise. The other side of our business is the content and experiences. So on the connectivity side, you probably recognize the Xfinity brand, which is all of the services that residents would get, like video, internet, and Xfinity Mobile is listed there. That's our mobile service. Comcast Business, which would be the business services that we provide, and Sky is those same connectivity capabilities, but Sky is our property in Europe. Content and experiences, that's the other side of the house, which is a lot of folks don't maybe necessarily know that NBC Universal Studios, Universal Theme Parks, that's all part of the Comcast family as well. But for our purposes, we're focused on connectivity. So we go to the next one. And it's probably, you may not be able to read from your distance, but these are the key platforms that are, when we're delivering services in your community, these are the key ones. It's internet, it's video, it's home security and automation. Xumo is our streaming platform. So if you are an internet subscriber and just wanted to stream, Xumo is the capability that gets you that. Xfinity Mobile is our mobile service, and then voice is obviously our landline service, digital voice. We go next. And these are kind of just probably the key services that you would have within the community. But Comcast Business is our business service that we provide. And there's a variety of services that can come with from that. We can get you the slide so you can see it up, but may not be able to read it from the distance you're at. And then lastly, I just wanted to touch real quickly on one of our number one community investment priorities is digital equity, digital inclusion. and making sure that people not only can get a connection, you know, regardless of your income level, but that you also have the skills to make the most of that connection. So I do always like to point out, even though it's not related to the franchise, but do want to point out that residents who live in the town of Keystone who receive any form of, I mean, it's income qualified, but anyone who receives any sort of form of public assistance would be eligible for internet essentials, and that would get them a broadband connection for $9.95 a month, 50 nights down and 10 up. But also they can get a laptop computer for about $150, as well as digital literacy training. So, and then beyond that, we do, you know, this is something we can talk about, you know, sort of further and later, but that, you know, like I said, getting a connection is one important piece, but the other is do folks have the skills to sort of really succeed in the digital world? And that's when we look at our community investment priorities, that's number one. So, but getting to the franchise, and so what on the next slide, these are kind of the, when we think about franchise 101, what are sort of the key elements? At its core, like I said, first of all, it governs the provision of a wireline video product. So when we're putting in infrastructure, and that's what's critical to a franchise, is that what it allows us to do is to build, operate, and maintain our infrastructure in the public rights of way. So that's how we build out our system. But in exchange, the town gets 5% of all video gross revenues in the community. It's a pass-through cost to customers. It gets paid back to the town. So when you have an Xfinity bill, you'll see a line on there that says franchise fee. That franchise fee is what we pay back to the town. So one thing I've talked to Jennifer about and had hoped for tonight to be able to kind of start talking about the estimate, what those calculations would look like. I don't have that for tonight. We're still kind of looking at the border of the new city limits and how that carves which residences and which businesses out of the county. Once we have those numbers buttoned up a bit better, I'll follow up with Jennifer and we'll share that. But like I said, at its core, we get access to public rights of way in exchange for 5% of our video growth revenue. The 5% is the federal maximum percentage. But there's some other key provisions in there. It's the franchise fees obviously is central, but it's it's reporting requirements, it's construction standards, it's insurance requirements, it's things like that. So it's pretty extensive. I think all of you probably taken a look at it. What we proposed here is a 10-year term. That's been kind of a standard term for us. It gives both sides some certainty over time. We're not right back at this, a couple of years from now. And then I'd say the other piece would be, there's a side letter, and I know Jennifer and I can maybe talk about this a little bit more, but one of the things that we've been discussing is that now that the town of Keystone is its own town, it may be interested in joining what's called the Summit County Telecommunications Consortium. And that is the consortium of all the communities in Summit County. And what they do is they kind of deal with communications issues. So think about SCTV, Summit County Television, and the consortium essentially produces and provides the content that goes on Summit County Television. So depending on what the town decides to do at some point, it may want to be a part of SCTC, and maybe, once you kind of get through the major things that you're doing to establish town operations, you may want to have a video capability that allows you to contribute content to the SCTC, but that's something that obviously I'll leave out to all of you to decide. But if and when that happens, we're also going to be in negotiations with the other members of the SCTC over the next probably 6 months to a year. And in that, if there are any provisions that come out of those negotiations that the town would like to adopt, what we've talked about in the side letter is that we'll come back and amend this agreement with anything new that the town found of value that came out of those negotiations. And the goal really is to create sort of ubiquity in these provisions across the communities in the town, across the towns in the county. So hopefully that if you have any concern about how those negotiations go and would you be able to kind of adopt some of that, that's what we've done the side letter for us to make that possible. Also, the hope too is to get all the communities on similar timing in that 10-year term. So that's a quick overview. Happy to take questions. Like I said, this is kind of a relic in the sense that it's based on 80s era cable law. But it is, it's an important, an important agreement to have for us to continue to operate and for some revenue for the town. So, have to take questions.
Questions for the council? Thank you very much. Councilmember Clement.
Thanks for coming up and talking to us. And also, I thought that was really cool to hear about the Internet Essentials thing.
Oh, good, yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll make sure that I pass along my information, and then actually, if you go to the last slide, you'll be able to see it. It's gonna be so fun. I'll make sure that all of you have my information. So one of the things to keep in mind too is that I am your contact for any and all things Comcast. So not just the franchise, but if you've got a constituent's got a billing issue, or you've got something like this, you've got a nonprofit in the community that would be a great resource that might be interested in helping connect the people they serve to the Internet Essentials, would love to make a connect on that. So, but any and all things Comcast. Okay.
Any other question? All right, thank you very much.
You bet.
And now, I did open the public hearing, I hope. With that, we can have we'll open the platform to anyone from the audience or the who's attending tonight would like to make a comment.
I'm Peter Mallon, over in the Keystone Ranch area. One quick question, kind of directed to the combination of Xfinity's product line and what I forgot the exact terminology. It's called net access or equal net access, where you will or will not reduce bandwidth and or access to certain kinds of characteristics. I didn't know what Comcast Xfinity, and is that in the franchise?
So that has to do with the internet, and the franchise only has to do with video. So I would say
Perhaps another way to look at that, since one of your product lines is based on internet access, i.e. it's not your fundamental video cable, but it is video. There's kind of a funny fine line between if I'm streaming, I'm using typically IP, therefore I'm using internet.
I'm sorry, just some point of clarification. You need to direct these comments to council.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please, resolve or understand there can be characteristics in service providers that have to do with the characteristics associated with bandwidth limiting and bias on bandwidth access. Please get the information before we get an agreement.
Well, however, this agreement has nothing to do with internet. It only has to do with cable and the streaming, correct me if I'm wrong, the streaming service that Comcast offers over the internet is not covered by this agreement.
That's correct. That's correct. So your question was about net neutrality, and I can send this to the council too, is that we support net neutrality principles. That's been the standing position that we've had. So I'm happy to share that information with council. But yes, what the constituent referring to has to do with streaming, which is done on the internet, and this is not, that's outside the scope of what a franchise is.
Thank you.
You bet. No problem.
Are there any other public comments? All right, without any other public comments, I'll call the period of public comment over, and I would like to then see if we have a motion. Council members listed.
I move to approve ordinance 2024-0-02, an ordinance of the town council in the town of Keystone, Colorado, approving a cable television franchise agreement between the town of Keystone, Colorado and Comcast of Colorado, Inc., to provide cable television services with the town and make reasonable and lawful use of the town rights of way for such purposes, and to authorize the mayor to sign a letter of agreement with Comcast.
Is there a second? Councilmember Clement.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? One discussion item I would like to add is currently today, we are all under the Comcast agreement with Summit County. And as a result, there's a franchise fee exists with that agreement as well. So consequently, there is no increase in cost. to the members of the community by adopting this franchise agreement.
And do you want to comment on that real quick, just to clarify?
Go ahead.
Sure. Just to be clear, both the county and this agreement are at the 5% maximum, so it should be, there's no change.
Is there any other comment? Someone like to call the question? Or I'll call the question. And clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Kerr,
Yes.
Councilmember Carmel,
Yes.
Councilmember Questa,
Yes.
Councilmember Davis,
Yes.
Councilmember Keel,
Yes.
Mayor Riley.
Yes.
There are 6 ayes.
All right. The next item of business that we have is other matters. So with that, our, what?
We have a report from the town manager and staff.
Well, do you have a report?
Um,
Or would you like to do the item you're going to cover in the report or other matters?
So, one item was a question we had earlier about the process to select the planning commission members. And we had a long discussion about that today, Lindsay and I, and the mayor dropped in and was part of that discussion as well. Right now you have 16 applications. I'm gonna turn this over to you in just a minute. And doing interviews for 16 people is gonna take a lot of your day. So we have an initial recommendation, how we might narrow that down, how we might complete the process of getting to a list that we then could interview and appoint. So you want to take that 16 and narrow it down to 9 real quick, for us?
That's what I was gonna say.
Good.
Well, number one, I'd like to thank council for getting the word out. I do believe that really garnered the majority of the applications. We did get 16. My suggestion, again, just a suggestion, is I look at all 16, I look at 9-ish, but 9, just to whittle it down based on what we heard tonight as far as testimony and the bylaws and all that. Make sure that what we're looking at is what the intent of the charter and ultimately bylaws will be. I have actually designed or come up with a couple questions for you to ask them. And I think the best way to do this probably is in a work session format. My concern with that is the timing. Our work session starts at 4. Some of these people work. So I'd like to go over some input from the council regarding that. When I do narrow the field down, I'm going to be looking at demographics. I'm going to be looking at varied experience and the location in which they live within the area. So those are things I'm going to look at to narrow the field down for you. I obviously will supply all the applications for you to review, but I think in the sake of efficiency, I'd like to do some of the work for you. So, what do you think?
Councilmember Keel?
Would it make sense or would it be helpful if we followed a similar procedure as what we did for the town managers?
Yeah.
Where, we're all given the names and then we give you what we consider to be, the top 6 or whatever, and then you compile based on, is that helpful?
Yeah, I think that worked quite well. So,
Yeah, I think it worked pretty decently. I mean, we used a sort of a rating scale, point system. I don't know if that's appropriate or if that would help to.
Well, that's one of the things I was thinking about, like a straw vote kind of.
So in other words, as we did with the town manager, Mr. Hirsch would take a look, come up with his recommended top 9. We get all the applications, and be able to review that. So if a council member wanted to bring someone else into that group, they could. But then, we would then do an internal straw poll of rank ordering. And then based on that rank ordering, we would make a decision of who to invite in for interviews.
So if we're looking,
Yep.
if we're looking for 7 people plus 2 alternates, then are we looking for 7 plus 2?
No, we dropped, we dropped the alternates off of that. I know that was my suggestion. That was based on my experience dealing with the county. Given this community, I don't think that's necessary.
Okay, it is still written in the documents that we had today. It's written in the,
I don't, it was meant to.
it's 100% is right in there, because I had a question, I couldn't find it, and then I found it, and I said, oh, I didn't ask the question. It definitely still says 7 plus 2 alternates.
You got 7 plus 2?
We can do that.
Yeah.
Unless you want.
Well, if we're looking for 7 plus 2, then we're gonna need to interview more than 9 people is where I'm going with this. But if we're changing that, then
Council member.
Given the wonderful response, I see no reason not to have a couple of alternates. That's just my opinion. You know, if we had 7 people that applied, then I wouldn't be saying that, and maybe the alternates you're preparing for your next round or your replacements. I don't see any reason not to. I kind of liked your presentation about how that worked. You persuaded us earlier.
7, 9, more than there.
And I'm thrilled that you have that kind of response.
it's under, I'm sorry, did you find it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Councilmember Kirk.
So, I think what I'm hearing is the process is going to be to look at the people regardless of whether they're primary residents or not. Do that OML and then ensure that the majority are primary?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell us,
I will make it blatantly clear who is primary, or who has primary residency status and who does not.
but that's not going to be how you.
No.
Okay.
No.
Without names or numbers, did we get any non-primary residents to apply?
Not that I'm aware of, but I have not done that research. Actually, I am aware of one.
Okay.
Could be more. I wasn't looking at it from that standpoint right there. So certainly a majority of the applicants are primary residents. Even how further they're trying, I believe.
Great, I want to hear that. Well, you know that, but you didn't have all the information.
So the proposal now is to get 9 names to you. It appears that earlier we were going to say that you get to pick the top 7, but in rank order. But right now it looks like you still rank order that, and those that are 8 and 9 would become your alternates. So if all the other requirements work out, so we're going to have a juggling to do there to make sure we have the right ratios.
Okay, so we're still gonna drop it to 9, or?
That's a question for the council. Councilmember Davis.
I would be, and I'm just speaking for me, would be willing to review all the names in rank order, all of them and watch it, but I don't know how other people feel. If we need a little background more than names, but,
Yeah, no, you're gonna get the application,
Right.
cover letters and resumes. And I'll give you a cheat sheet as well with regards to the residency issue.
I mean, I'm willing to go through all of them. I don't know.
I think we'll have an opportunity to go through all, but I would like to have his prioritization of who he believes is the top 9. And then any council member who wants to add someone else into that list for consideration, when we go through the rank order, you could do so. And that's pretty much, I think, the way we handled the town manager. We went to 6 and
So basically what I'm hearing, excuse me, you're reporting in the opportunity to potentially, make evidence with 7 people.
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah.
No, that, I'm gonna give you a professional list.
And we won't be notifying anyone until a final decision has been made, correct?
for
Even if they didn't make the top 10.
right.
Yeah, they won't know that.
Follow
Town manager.
Russian's, suggestion. So you would like to rank 1 through 16?
Nothing to do with it. Or just read them all and then listen and then hear what his, Mr. Hirsch's recommendations and then if there's somebody else that.
I guess the question, then follow-up question is, you rank them all. I guess you could do some comparison to the ones that you thought were the top 7 or 9, whatever. Do we then still hold interviews? Or do we just use the rank order to kind of do that?
That's very cute.
I mean, I guess this would be a question, I mean, do you get enough information from the cover letter and the resume to make an informed decision about a position like this? Or, you know, what sorts of interview questions do you really need that you can't get? You tell us you need interviews or not.
I'm gonna leave it up to them to decide what's
I
valid.
didn't take myself with this one. I think it would be a good serviceable one.
Okay. And then that's,
I can see. I want to make sure that was clear. Okay.
So again, we're still, all the council members who have all the applications have an opportunity to, if they believe someone should be added to the list, they can add them in the top 9. But we will rank order the top 9, or if the council member adds someone to the list, look at where we want to rank it.
Sure.
Is that acceptable, council?
Thank you.
Okay, Judy? Perfect.
Thank you.
Right. And I believe that's all I had for this part of the agenda.
All right. The next item on the agenda is other matters, and I'll bring up one. I know Councilmember Fiskett has one. We had the discussion today about the liquor licensing, tobacco licensing ordinances, and with the approval of the council, I'd like to direct the staff to put that on the work agenda for the next meeting, so we can make sure that prior to the meeting, we have an adequate time to fully discuss both of those those items. And if we have end up with major disconnects, which are in those, we have an opportunity then to give staff direction and defer the final reading of that amendment for another meeting. Because we still have one spare meeting in between the 9th that we could play with. Was that acceptable, council?
Please.
All right. Okay with you, Mr. Town Manager?
Yes, I did miss something in my report. There was one other comment, I'd like to go back. Is that all right?
Yes.
That it had been brought up in a previous meeting that we should have a discussion on citizen advisory boards. And I think all I will say now is that if that's still people what they want to do, we'll try to bring that back sometime in April, one of those meetings, to have a discussion. We're not talking about tonight. I don't know what those might be, but you'll have a chance to decide if you need citizen advisory boards, and if so, where would those be most helpful? So that's coming. And now I'm done.
I again apologize for being really clunky at this. I was reading the paper and I noticed that the town of Frisco, and I'm not proposing this, so bear with me. The town of Frisco, to celebrate graduating seniors, has custom banners that they hang in the town. Obviously, we don't have a budget for that, but it made me think about what it means to be a community. And I think one of the elements of being a community that would be probably low cost, you can tell me to take a hike, Maddie, and we can all tend to do this. creating a space on our website for people to be able to connect as a community with the community and notice kids who are state champions in alpine skiing or other notable things about members of our community that people feel worthy of putting on a bulletin board, so to speak, the electronic bulletin board on the town website. Since we can't afford to do custom banners and things like that.
Oh, didn't say that.
Well, I would never propose.
But this is a low-cost option to bring attention
Yeah.
and bring on the town to the people in the town that have done good things.
And acknowledging the fact that we are a community and that's just,
Do you have any idea how many graduate seniors we have in Keystone District?
I mean, this is a survey and that wasn't my intention.
Actually, one.
No, I swear. Start graduating seniors, start with the state alpine champion. But that's all I had.
Graduating kindergarten.
Yeah.
I don't have any kids, but I think this is an amazing idea to do it.
And I believe that, so we do have a community engagement line in the budget. So in fact, there is money to do this sort of thing, if the council wants.
And we don't have to waste precious time and energy on it, but so maybe starting with an electronic bulletin board on our website to encourage people to start looking there to see what is the goodness in our community.
So perhaps you could look at it over the next few weeks and see what might be reasonable.
Yes.
You would ask us to help.
Gives me some pause about creating an open forum.
No, not open forum. It would come through you.
Okay.
Say bulletin board and saying somebody could submit something to the town and say something notable happened. And I mean, there's a trillion things that somebody could propose. You get to be the filter and you get to decide what goes on the public bulletin. No, not reading,
There should be a policy, you don't want Maddie to have to, oh, yes, this, no, that.
So maybe we can come back to a future work session in April with a suggested policy.
Great. Then what up, Councilman Pierce?
It did just pop back in my mind that we had discussed a while back, can we put the logo back on an agenda? Since that kind of fell off, since we've been super busy. But can we put that on the future agenda to start discussing?
it can be during a slow month,
Yeah, it just have to be.
like in a spot.
November, December? It's a slow month. Mr. Town Manager, would you please put the logo discussion back on a work session sometime in the future when there's space available on the work session calendar?
I get notes.
Well,
6 pages today.
Probably not for April or.
Well, we'll see. I think there's actually going to be a lull.
Yeah.
In timing as we go. All right, we are now, is there any other, matters that, need to be brought to our attention from either ourselves or the, manager? With that, we're there.
Can I just clarify? So are we waiting for the town manager and expecting that person to take the next steps for the public works director or the assistant clerk? I think I lost the ball there.
If you,
I have some updates on a deputy assistant, office manager, deputy clerk, that I'll bring up it's a personnel matter, so I'll bring it up under the executive session. Have not, yet started anything on the public works.
Are we expecting the town manager to do that? That I just wanted to clarify. Thank you. What was it you wanted? The next one. The next one. Thank you.
is there any other we want to discuss? With that, I think the next item on the agenda is the executive session. And does anyone have a motion?
I move to go into an executive session pursuant to Sierra Section 24-6-402 and 4-1 to receive legal advice concerning the negotiation of the extension of an intergovernmental agreement with Southern County on transition services as well as to determine positions relative to the negotiation of the transition services intergovernmental agreement with Summit County to develop strategies for such negotiations and to instruct negotiators accordingly. Additionally, an executive session pursuant to CRS section 24-6-402-3 and 4E or L, to receive legal advice concerning an employment agreement with the town manager and to determine positions relative to an employment agreement with the town manager that is to be subject to negotiations, to develop strategies for such negotiations and instruct negotiators accordingly.
It's been moved to go into, executive session. Is there a second to the motion? Councilmember Keel?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I will now go to a vote. We need 2/3 of the quorum present. Of all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the vote was 6 in favor, 0 opposed. We'll go into executive session in the conference room and we'll take a 5-minute recess.
And also no further business.
Oh, and no further business will be conducted after the executive session concludes. So we're now in recess for 5 minutes while we make the transition and make any other stops we need to make.